To make you the smartest person in the room involving our Second Amendment rights, I need to talk to you about the realities of the ATF and its inner workings. You're probably not going to hear about this anywhere else. So let's break down why you need to know all about, ready for this, folks? The Plum Book. That's right. Your right to keep and bear arms will turn largely over the next 4 years on who gets appointed pursuant to the Plum Book. Thus, we have to discuss the Plum Book and what it means when we come right back. Hey folks, I'm Mark Smith, host of the Four Boxes Diner, proud American gun owner, constitutional attorney, member of the United States Supreme Court Bar, and a former member of President Trump's presidential transition team in the year of our Lord 2016. I only mention that because this is going to give you some context as to why I know all about the Plum Book and presidential appointments, because I was on the presidential transition team in the past. All right, folks, so here's the story. When a president becomes the president-elect, right, which Donald Trump now is, right, he's now the presidential-elect, he goes through the transition process. And what does that mean? It means he has to pick people to fill various spots in the federal government. Now, with that said, ready for this? There are approximately 8,000, hear what I just said? 8,000 jobs in the federal government that the President of the United States can appoint, some with Senate confirmation and whatnot, but as a general matter, there are 8,000 positions that the president has authority to select people to fill. This covers everything from the obvious ones like the EPA, the Department of State, the Department of the Defense, the Department of Justice, and all the subdivisions like the U.S. Marshal Service, and of course the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and so on and so on. Now, to even begin the process, and we're going to get to the ATF in just about 30 seconds here, but to even begin the process of filling out these jobs, which takes time, you got to know what the jobs are. So how does the president-elect know what the jobs are? And the answer is that there is a book published. And the fact that I know this is in some ways absolutely embarrassing that I have to know this stuff about our federal government. It's terrible. Nevertheless, you don't come to this channel for rainbows and unicorns. You come to this channel for information at the highest levels of society and the law and government. And that's why we're going to talk about the document, the book, in fact, where you can find, and you can do it too, because I'm going to put a link to it down below so you can click on the link and look at the PDF for free yourself. A document or book called the Plum Book. Now, this Plum Book lists all 8,000 or so jobs that the President of the United States gets to fill in various ways. Now, some of these positions get filled with a presidential appointment and Senate confirmation, like the Attorney General of the United States, the head of the Department of Defense, and so on and so on. Some of these, the President can just appoint. Some of these, the President can appoint, but he or she is only allowed to appoint from a basket of people, specifically career civil servants. You heard me right. There are some jobs, and this is going to be very important for the ATF. We're going to get to that in 1 second. There are some positions that the President of the United States can appoint people, but he can only appoint people if those people are already working for the deep state. They're already working in the federal bureaucracy. And this is a big deal with the ATF, which you're going to get to in just 10 seconds or so. Okay? Now, the Plum Book is called the Plum Book because when you print it out or you look at it, it's actually got a plum cover. So what exactly is it before we turn to the page involving the ATF? Specifically, the Plum Book is published by the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs and the House Committee on Oversight and Reform, alternatively, after each presidential election. The Plum Book is used to identify presidential appointed and other positions within the federal government. The publication lists over 8,000 federal civil service leadership and support positions in the legislative and executive branches of the federal government that may be subject to non-competitive appointment. Now, non-competitive appointment means president can appoint, right? With some modifications and some restraints, but overall presidential appointments as a general matter. That's the way to think about this. Now, the duties of many such positions may involve advocacy of administration policies and programs, and the incumbents usually have a close and confidential working relationship with the agency head or other officials. Now, let's turn to the ATF, because this really is going to matter, but I wanted to give you some context so you understand what's going on here. This is a potential problem. What do I mean? I'm very familiar with ATF appointments. I'm very familiar with this. The fact that I may or may not talk about details on this channel should not be taken as a sign of ignorance or lack of interest. We're going to leave it at that. Now, on page 94 of the Plum Book, just published for the 2024 year, this is the 2024 Plum Book. It just got published. This is the book that Donald Trump and his team, including soon-to-be Vice President J.D. Vance, will be using to fill out the roles. Now, I want to show here, I'm going to display right here, right now, on this as a graphic on this video, the section that deals with those positions that are specific to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives. Okay? Let's go to the graphic right now. Now, if you look at this chart, it says Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. That's the name of course, the department. Now, if you then look at the graphic, you'll see the location of the job. They're all in Washington, D.C., which is terrible, but nevertheless, that's the reality on the ground. The first position, now, listen, you got to watch this carefully. This is super duper important. The first position is obvious. That's the Director of Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. It says the name of the incumbent is Stephen Dettelbach. Then you move over, it says the type of appointment, it says PAS. PAS. Now, PAS stands for Presidential Appointment with Senate Confirmation, which means if you want the job to be the director of the ATF, it's a presidential appointment with Senate confirmation. Okay, we know that. We also know that there's been many years where you don't have a director of the ATF because the president never appointed them, or if they did get appointed, they did not get confirmed by the United States Senate, so they never took the position. Now I want you to look at the other positions. This is super duper important, and you're not going to hear about this anywhere else, and it probably is not going to get picked up by other people, but you got to know this, okay? Look at these other positions on this chart, all from the 2024 Plum Book. Chief Counsel is the next position in Washington, D.C., right? Chief Counsel, move to the right. What is the name of the incumbent? It says career incumbent. Below that, Deputy Chief Counsel. Go over, career incumbent. Okay? Next one down, Executive Assistant Director for Administration. Go over, career incumbent. The next one, the Chief of the Firearms Operations Division. It says it's vacant. But then you go down and see these other positions, Associate Assistant Director, Industry Operations, and Deputy Assistant Director, Office of Enforcement Programs and Services. These are all career incumbents. Okay, why does this matter? Career incumbent, there's a debate of philosophy here. You can say I'm wrong, you can say I get this wrong. If I get it wrong, you let me know. But my understanding is, as a general matter, there may be some exceptions, there may be some wiggle room, but as a general matter, no, not really. These positions that are listed as career incumbents are positions that can only be filled by people at the agency, people who are already in the federal government. You hear what I just said? So while the director, we can pick, theoretically, President Trump can pick you sitting on your couch. You can pick any gun YouTuber. It could pick any American to be the director of the ATF, as long as that person is selected by the president and confirmed by the U.S. Senate. But these other positions have to be drawn from, they have to be selected from the government. You see what I'm saying? They have to already be working in the government, in the ATF or in the Department of Justice. I don't think it has to be in the ATF, but it's got to be in the government. That's why it's listed on this chart. Career incumbent. Career incumbent means working for the government. You can't pick you. So if you're working for, let's say, a gun company today, and you've never worked for the federal government, for the sake of argument, you cannot be picked by the President of the United States to fill those roles. Why? Because you're not a career incumbent. You don't have a job for the government, which means you can't be picked for any of these jobs as chief counsel, deputy chief counsel, executive assistant director, and so on and so on. So what does that mean? It means that the way the ATF has been set up, other than the director, the only people that will operate the ATF are people that are already at the ATF. Now, this is particularly important for many reasons. One of it is this. The people in those roles, now I don't know their names, and maybe I'm wrong about my assumption here, but my assumption and speculation is the people that are in the roles here all were buddies with Steve Dettelbach and are likely anti-gun. Or at a minimum, not pro-Second Amendment. Now, I could be wrong. It may turn out that these career incumbents in the positions today are super duper great on the Second Amendment, and they're better on the Second Amendment than even the four boxes downer. It's possible. I'm doubting it. Okay? Because these appointments would have come from Joe Biden, and I'm pretty sure if you're a career person at ATF and you get a job with Joe Biden, I'm guessing you're probably not great on guns. Just my guess. Could be wrong. That's my guess. Now, the reason why this is important is the following point. Until there's a director of the ATF, or until someone with President Trump laser focuses on the ATF and puts someone in charge there, or has the Attorney General take over the ATF effectively and tell them what to do, the career incumbents, this is my prediction, the career incumbents that are in these other positions like chief counsel and deputy chief counsel and the like are going to do what? What are they going to do? They are going to continue the status quo. They're going to continue doing the work that they've been doing for the last 4 years. And what work is that? We know what the work is, right? It's advancing effectively Joe Biden's gun control agenda using regulations promulgated by the Biden administration and enforced by ATF Director Stephen Dettelbach, who, yes, he's resigning, but here's the key. He is resigning in January, and that's good. But it won't matter. It won't matter, in my opinion, as long as these other career civil servants, these career incumbents, are in these other positions. Because if you don't have a director, who's going to run the agency? The answer is these career incumbents with these other jobs, and they're going to maintain the status quo. And the status quo, the trend or the status quo today is Joe Biden's policies that are anti-gun and anti-Second Amendment and anti-gun industry. Therefore, it's going to be very important in the near future, it doesn't have to be tomorrow, but in the near future, someone in the Trump administration is going to have to make sure that the ATF is under control and told what to do. Because if the Trump people do not tell them what to do and tell them to whatever it is, whatever the new policies will be, which presumably will be more appropriate for the Second Amendment, less government regulation, no more zero tolerance, and so on, whatever those policies ultimately are, that change will only occur if someone from the Trump administration turns to the ATF and tells them to change their course, to change course. Now, this will likely be the Attorney General Pam Bondi, who I suspect will be confirmed, and her team around her will ultimately have to, I think, lord over the ATF and direct them. But if no one focuses on the ATF and no one directs them to change the course, the status quo will prevail. And the status quo, as you know, because you've lived it alongside the Four Boxes Diner for the last 4 years, is obviously not good for the right to keep and bear arms. It's not good for the firearms industry. It's not good for America. And it's not good for law-abiding gun owners. That's obvious. So I'd like you, if you're interested, and if you want a job in the federal government, I would encourage you to look at the link in the description of this video here to the Plum Book. Open it up, click on the PDF. You'll see it's teeny type print. It goes on for hundreds and hundreds of pages. Something like 8,000 jobs are in there. So if you're looking for the job of the Trump administration or for the public library system, the federal library, the Library of Congress, any of these jobs associated with federal government, there are 8,000 of these jobs listed in the Plum Book, and you can take a look. And again, I'm not telling you you should do it. I'm not telling you it's good that we have this. I'm not saying I'm happy we have 8,000 jobs and that the government has become this behemoth. Obviously, I don't like any of this, but it's not my job to, like or dislike. I have to tell you the reality on the ground, and I'm letting you know that this is something we need to be aware of. It's not an urgent issue today or tomorrow, but in the next 3 to 4 weeks, these issues are going to be very important, and we're going to want someone to get in there and start guiding the ATF in a better direction, because it's kind of like, metaphorically, a very, very large container ship is going in one direction, and it takes miles and miles and miles for it to turn and change course. And that's like the ATF. It's going to take some work to get the ATF to turn to a direction that's more focused and favorable to freedom, as opposed to oppression and over-enforcement and violation of our rights. But it's doable, but we at least need to understand the lay of the land, and I hope by explaining the Plum Book and these jobs and who is going to run the ATF when Stephen Dettelbach steps aside, and when there is no director for some period of time, and there won't be a director for some period of time because Donald Trump is going to have to appoint and confirm a whole bunch of people before he gets down to the level of the ATF, and that's going to be some number of months. So the question is, what's going to happen with the ATF during the first several months while his cabinet is getting confirmed by the Senate and other important positions like the Solicitor General's office is getting filled, and so on and so on. It's going to be a little while before the ATF director even kind of pops up, because there's so many other jobs that need to be filled first before the president gets to the ATF, is my guess. So there you have it, folks. I hope this wasn't too geeky. Make sure you check out the Plum Book if you want to roll your eyes. I hate to teach you this stuff, but you have to know it if you really want to be a smart person involving these gun rights and the Second Amendment and the ATF. So check out the actual document and you'll see what I'm talking about, how scary it is that it exists and what it means. But in the meantime, I hope you've learned something here today. Make sure you follow me on X at @ForABoxesDiner. We have almost 22,000 followers. Make sure you follow me on Rumble, because again, we're trying to expand on Rumble because a lot of people want to see us on Rumble. And of course, don't forget to like this video and share it and subscribe to this channel. And again, I look forward to talking to all of you again very, very soon here at the 4 Boxes Diner.
Orders up. Table 2A.